She was cast out into the desert with nothing but a name and a whisper of hope. He was a man who had lost everything and wanted nothing more than to disappear. But when their paths crossed, the course of both their lives began to change. What could an exiled Apache girl and an aging gunslinger possibly have in common? And why would fate bring them together in the harshest of places? Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story and where you're watching from and why you're following this. The dry Arizona desert stretched endlessly under the scorching midday sun. Nayeli, a 12-year-old Apache girl, trudged across the barren landscape, her small feet leaving imprints in the sand. 3 days had passed since the elders had banished her from the tribe, accusing her of bringing bad fortune after a series of unexplained deaths followed a solar eclipse she had pointed out. Superstition ran deep, and someone had to be blamed. Her throat burned with thirst, and her stomach twisted with hunger. The small pouch of dried meat and berries the sympathetic medicine woman had secretly given her was now empty. Nayeli's dark eyes scanned the horizon, searching for any sign of water or shelter, but all she could see was the endless expanse of desert and the distant silhouette of mountains. "Just keep walking," she whispered to herself, her cracked lips painful as she spoke. "The spirits will guide you." Though she repeated the words her grandmother had taught her, doubt crept into her heart. Why had the spirits allowed her to be cast out? What evil had she done? The questions plagued her mind as she continued her journey to nowhere. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Nayeli spotted a thin plume of smoke rising in the distance. Hope flickered in her chest like a small flame. Where there was smoke, there were people. People meant water. But people also meant danger, especially for a lone Apache girl in white man's territory. Cautiously, she approached the source of the smoke. It was a small camp with a single figure hunched by the fire. An old man with weather-beaten skin and long gray hair tied back sat stirring something in a small pot. A horse was tethered nearby, and a worn saddle rested against a rock. The man wore the clothes of a white settler, but something about his demeanor seemed different. Nayeli crouched behind a large boulder, observing the stranger. Her parched throat and empty stomach urged her forward, but caution held her back. Stories of what white men did to her people echoed in her mind. The old man suddenly looked up, his piercing blue eyes seeming to stare directly at her hiding place. "I know you're there," he called out, his voice gravelly but not threatening. "Come on out. I ain't gonna hurt you." Nayeli remained frozen, debating whether to run or reveal herself. "Look," the man continued, "I got beans and coffee. More than enough. For two, you must be hungry." The mention of food broke her resolve. Slowly, she emerged from behind the boulder, ready to bolt at the first sign of danger. The old man's eyes widened slightly at the sight of her, a small Apache girl, her clothes dusty and torn, her face gaunt with hunger. But he made no sudden movements, just gestured to a spot across the fire from him. "Sit," he said. "Name's Thomas Blackwood. Most folks call me Tom." Nayeli remained silent, but cautiously approached and sat as far from him as the warmth of the fire would allow. Tom didn't seem bothered by her silence. He spooned beans into a tin plate and placed it on the ground between them, then pushed it toward her with a stick, respecting her fear. "Go on," he encouraged. "Ain't fancy, but it's hot." Hunger overrode caution, and Nayeli grabbed the plate, eating quickly with her fingers. The beans were bland but warm, and they eased the painful emptiness in her stomach. "Where's your people?" "Girl?" Tom asked after she'd eaten half the plate. Nayeli paused, considering whether to answer, then spoke in halting English. "They send me away. Say I bring bad medicine." Tom's weathered face remained impassive, but something flickered in his eyes, recognition, perhaps, or understanding. "That so?" he said quietly. "Well, Folks can be mighty foolish when they're scared. White, Apache, Mexican, don't matter. Fear makes people do stupid things. He poured coffee into a chipped enamel cup and offered it to her. This time, she took it directly from his hand. "You got a name?" he asked. "Nayeli," she replied, sipping the bitter coffee and trying not to grimace at the unfamiliar taste. "Nayeli," he repeated, pronouncing it carefully. "Where you headed?" She shrugged. "Nowhere, anywhere." Tom nodded, as if this was a perfectly reasonable destination. "Well, Nayeli, I'm headed to a town called Redemption. About 3 days' ride from here. I got business there." He paused, studying her face. "You're welcome to tag along." Safer than wandering the desert alone, Nayeli regarded him suspiciously. "Why you help Apache girl?" The old man's gaze drifted to the fire, and for a moment, his eyes seemed to look into the past. "Let's just say, I've been where you are, cast out, nowhere to go." He looked back at her. "Besides, desert's a hard place to be alone." As night fell fully around them, Nayeli found herself wrapped in a worn but clean blanket, the fire crackling between her and the strange white man. She didn't trust him, not completely, but something told her. He wasn't like the other white men her tribe had warned her about. "Get some rest," Tom said, leaning back against his saddle. "We leave at first light." Nayeli lay down, facing the fire, keeping the old man in her sight. As exhaustion began to claim her, she wondered what strange path the spirits were leading her down, and whether this weathered old pistolero was to be her salvation or her doom. In the distance, a coyote howled, and Tom Blackwood's eyes reflected the dancing flames as he kept watch through the night, his gnarled hand never far from the revolver at his side. Dawn broke over the Arizona desert, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Nayeli awoke with a start, momentarily disoriented until she remembered the events of the previous day. The old man Tom Blackwood was already up, saddling his horse's sturdy dun gelding with intelligent eyes. "Morning," he said simply, noting her awakening. "There's jerky in that pouch if you're hungry. We should get moving before the day heats up." Nayeli ate the tough dried meat in silence, watching Tom with cautious eyes. Despite his kindness the previous night, she remained wary. The elders of her tribe had told many stories about white settlers and their deceitful ways. "Can you ride?" Tom asked, tightening the cinch on his saddle. Nayeli nodded. "All Apache children learn to ride almost as soon as they could walk." "Good, you'll ride with me then. Dusty here can carry us both just fine, can't you, boy?" He patted the horses' neck affectionately. After a sparse breakfast and a precious drink from Tom's canteen, they set off. Tom sat in the saddle with Nayeli perched behind him, her small hands reluctantly holding onto his worn leather vest. The horse's steady gait lulled her into a calm she hadn't felt since before her banishment. As they rode, Tom occasionally pointed out features of the landscape or identified animal tracks. He didn't speak much, which suited Nayeli fine. The silence between them was comfortable, not strained. Around midday, when the sun was at its hottest, they stopped in the shade of a rock formation. Tom shared his water and more jerky, then surprised her by pulling out a small book from his saddlebag. "You know letters?" he asked, thumbing through the worn pages. Nayeli shook her head. "No read white man words." Tom considered this. "Well, never too late to learn. My May taught me when I was about your age. Only good thing she ever did for me, truth be told." To Nayeli's surprise, Tom began teaching her some basic English words, pointing to objects around them and saying their names, then showing her how they looked written in the dust. "Horse, sky, water," she repeated, tracing the strange symbols with a stick. "You're quick," Tom observed with the hint of a smile. "Took me twice as long to learn half as much." As they continued their journey, Nayeli found herself relaxing more in Tom's presence. By late afternoon, she had even asked a few questions of her own. "Why you alone?" she inquired as they crossed a dry creek bed. "Where your family?" Tom was quiet for so long that Naili thought he hadn't heard her. Finally he spoke, his voice rougher than before. "Had a wife once, and a daughter." His words came slowly, as if each one was being dragged from somewhere deep inside him. "Lost them both. Fever took my Sarah, my girl, Eliza. She'd be a bit older than you now. What happened to her?" Nayeli pressed, sensing there was more to the story. Tom's shoulders stiffened. "Some stories are better left untold, girl." They rode in silence after that, the rhythm of the horses' hooves the only sound between them. As the sun began to set, they made camp in the shelter of a small canyon. Tom built a fire while Nayeli gathered some edible desert plants. She recognized her. Small contribution to their meal. After they had eaten, Tom sat cleaning his revolver, a Colt Peacemaker that had clearly seen many years of use. Nayeli watched, fascinated by the methodical way his weathered hands moved over the weapon. "You kill many men?" she asked bluntly. Tom's hands paused momentarily. "More than I care to remember," he admitted. "Used to be what they call a bounty hunter. Tracked men who'd done wrong. Brought them in or put them in the ground." "You still do this?" "No." His response was quick and firm. "Gave it up years ago. Now I just drift. Take odd jobs here and there." "What business in redemption?" Nayeli asked, remembering what he'd told her the night before. Tom reassembled his revolver with practiced ease. "Man there owes me, not money. A debt that can't be paid with coins." His blue eyes hardened as he spoke, and Nayeli saw something dangerous flicker in their depths. "This man. He hurt you?" she ventured. "He took something from me." Tom holstered the weapon. "Something I can never get back." Nayeli considered this. "You seek revenge." It wasn't a question, but Tom answered anyway. "Justice," he corrected. "There's a difference." "What difference?" she asked, genuinely curious. Tom sighed, looking into the fire. "Revenge burns everything it touches, including the one seeking it. Justice. Well, justice is what's right. What's owed." He looked at her. "At least that's what I tell myself." Later, as they settled for the night, Nayeli found herself wondering about this strange white man and his quest for justice. She thought about her own situation, cast out, alone, following a stranger to an unknown destination. Was there justice for her? Would she ever return to her people? As if sensing her thoughts, Tom spoke from his place across the fire. "Your tribe. They might take you back someday. When memories fade, when new troubles come along. People forget their fears, given enough time." Nayeli drew her knees up to her chest. "You think so? Maybe." He paused. "Or maybe you'll find a new path, new people, like you?" she asked softly. Tom's weathered face softened slightly. "I'm not much company for a young one like you. But for now, we'll look out for each other. That's all anyone can do in this world." With those words hanging in the night air, they fell silent. Nayeli listened to the desert sounds, the distant howl of coyotes, the rustle of night creatures, the crackling of the dying fire. For the first time since her banishment, she felt a small measure of peace. Tomorrow they would continue their journey to redemption, a place she knew nothing about, with a man she barely knew. Yet somehow, as sleep began to claim her, Nayeli felt that the spirits had not abandoned her after all. Perhaps they had guided her to this old pistolero for a reason that would become clear in time. The town of Redemption appeared on the horizon like a mirage in the late afternoon of their third day of travel. It was larger than Nayeli had expected, a cluster of wooden buildings stretching along both sides of a wide dirt street, with a church steeple rising above the other structures. As they approached, Tom pulled his horse to a stop on a ridge overlooking the settlement. His weathered face was unreadable, but Nayeli felt the tension in his body. "That's it," he said, his voice low. "Redemption. Ain't been back here in 15 years. Nayeli studied the town, then looked at Tom's face. "The man who owes you. He's still there?" "He's there." Tom's certainty was cold and hard as stone. "Vernon Slater don't run. He owns half this town." They sat in silence for a moment, the horse shifting restlessly beneath them. "Listen, girl," Tom finally said, turning slightly to look at her. "Town ain't safe for an Apache child alone. Some folks there, they got long memories and short tempers when it comes to your people." "I stay with you," Nayeli stated firmly. Tom shook his head. "What I got to do ain't fit for young eyes. I'll find you a safe place first. You ... leave me?" The hurt in her voice was unexpected, even to her. 3 days with this strange white man had somehow formed a bond she hadn't anticipated. "Not leaving you," Tom assured her. "Just need to settle my business. Then we'll figure something out for you. Something better than tagging along with an old gunslinger." Nayeli wanted to protest further, but the determination in Tom's eyes told her it would be futile. Instead, she asked where I stay. "There's a woman in town. Name's Martha Wilson. Runs a boarding house on the edge of town. She's got a kind heart. Should take you in while I do what needs doing." They rode down into redemption as the sun began its descent toward the western horizon. Nayeli felt eyes upon them as they made their way down the main street, curious glances that turned hostile when they noticed her Apache features. She straightened her back and lifted her chin, refusing to show fear. Tom ignored the stares, guiding his horse with purpose toward a 2-story building with a sign that read, "Wilson's Boarding House." A woman was sweeping the porch, her gray-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked up as they approached, her broom pausing mid-sweep. "Thomas Blackwood," she said, more statement than greeting. "Heard you were dead." "Not yet, Martha," Tom replied, dismounting and helping Nayeli down. Though not for lack of trying on some folks' part. Martha's eyes moved to Nayeli, widening slightly in surprise. "And who might this be?" "This is Nayeli. She needs a place to stay for a spell." Tom's hand rested briefly on Nayeli's shoulder. "She's had a rough go of it." Martha studied the Apache girl, her expression softening. "Indian child, riding with Tom Blackwood. Now there's a story I'd like to hear." "Maybe another time," Tom said. "Can you take her in?" "Just for a few days. I'll pay double your usual rate." Martha stepped closer, lowering her voice. "This about Slater?" "Whole town's been buzzing since word got out you were headed this way." Tom's expression hardened. "You always did know more than was good for you, Martha. And you always did have a one-track mind when it came to vengeance," she countered. Then, with a sigh, she looked at Nayeli again. "Come on in, child. Let's get you cleaned up and fed properly. You look half-starved." Nayeli looked uncertainly at Tom. "You come back?" she asked, unable to keep the worry from her voice. For the first time since she'd met him, Tom Blackwood's face softened into something resembling a smile. "I'll be back. You have my word." As Martha led her inside, Nayeli glanced back to see Tom remounting his horse. Their eyes met briefly, and he touched the brim of his hat in a small salute before turning and riding toward the center of town. Inside the boarding house, Martha bustled about, heating water for a bath and laying out some clean clothes that had belonged to her daughter years ago. "Don't you worry about Tom," she said as she helped Nayeli wash the desert dust from her hair. "That man's harder to kill than a desert scorpion. Though Lord knows, he's been trying to get himself killed ever since he lost Eliza." Nayeli's ears perked up at the familiar name. "Eliza? His daughter?" Martha nodded, her hands gentle as they worked soap through Nayeli's long black hair. Such a tragedy, sweet little thing she was. Just 6 years old when it happened. "What happened?" Nayeli asked, eager to understand more about the man who had saved her. Martha hesitated, then sighed. "I suppose you ought to know, traveling with him. Vernon Slater, he runs the saloon in town. He was driving his wagon drunk, racing it down the main street like a madman. Eliza was crossing with her mother. Sarah managed to push Eliza partly out of the way, but the wagon still caught her. Doctor did what he could, but Martha shook her head sadly. Infection set in. She was gone within a week. And Tom's wife? Nayeli asked, though she already knew the answer. Died of fever the following winter. After that, Tom went hard. Started hunting bounties, building a reputation as a man not to be crossed. Then one day, he just disappeared. Until now. Martha's eyes grew troubled. Nothing good will come of him being back, child. Nothing good at all. That night, as Nayeli lay in a real bed for the first time in days, her thoughts were with Tom. She understood now his quest wasn't mere revenge, but a father's need for justice for his daughter. In Apache tradition, such a debt could only be paid in one way. From her window, she could see the lights of the town saloon burning bright against the desert night. Somewhere out there, Tom Blackwood was confronting his demons. And despite Martha's kindness, Nayeli couldn't shake the feeling that she should be there with him. After all, they were the same, cast out, alone, carrying wounds that wouldn't heal. Perhaps that was why the spirits had brought them together. Not just so he could save her, but so that somehow, in some way she couldn't yet understand, she might help save him too. With that thought, she slipped from her bed and began to dress. Martha had retired hours ago. The boarding house was quiet. Nayeli moved silently, as she had been taught since childhood, and made her way downstairs and out into the night. Redemption was different after dark, more threatening, with shadows that seemed to move and watch. But Nayeli was Apache. She knew how to become one with the darkness, and she knew where she needed to go. The Silver Dollar Saloon blazed with light and noise at the far end of Redemption's main street. Nayeli crept along the shadows of the buildings, her heart pounding against her ribs. Twice she had to duck into alleys to avoid drunken cowboys stumbling past. The night air carried this sense of whiskey, tobacco, and unwashed body smells that made her wrinkle her nose in disgust. When she reached the saloon, she skirted around to the back, looking for a way to see inside without being seen. A stack of empty crates provided the perfect ladder to a small window, and she climbed up silently, peering into the smoky interior. The saloon was crowded. Men clustered around gaming tables or leaning against the long bar. Painted women in bright dresses moved among them, laughing too loudly at jokes that weren't funny. And there, seated at a table near the center of the room, was Tom Blackwood. Across from him sat a heavy-set man in expensive suit, his face flushed with drink and his expression contemptuous. Even without being told, Nayeli knew this must be Vernon Slater. The hatred radiating from Tom was almost palpable, even through the glass. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could see Tom's hand resting near his holstered revolver. The entire room seemed to sense the tension. Conversations had quieted, and people were beginning to edge away from the two men. Suddenly, Tom stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the wooden floor. Slater remained seated, a mocking smile on his face as he said something that made Tom's expression darken further. Nayeli held her breath, certain that violence was about to erupt, but then something unexpected happened. Tom's shoulders slumped slightly, and he shook his head. He turned away from Slater and began walking toward the door. The saloon owner called out something that made the room erupt in laughter, but Tom didn't turn back. Nayeli scrambled down from her perch and ran to the front of the building, arriving just as Tom emerged into the night air. His face was a mask of conflicting emotions, anger, grief, and something else. Something that looked almost like relief. "Tom," she called softly, stepping out of the shadows. He whirled, hand dropping to his gun, then froze when he recognized her. "Nayeli? What in tarnation are you doing here? I told you to stay with Martha." "I had to come," she said simply. "What happened? You not kill bad man?" Tom sighed heavily, looking back at the saloon doors. "No, came close. Had my hand on my gun. was ready to send him to meet his maker. He looked down at his hands, which were trembling slightly. But then, I realized something. What? Nayeli asked, moving closer to him. Killing him won't bring Eliza back. Won't ease this ache I've been carrying for 15 years. He rubbed his chest absently. Been chasing ghosts, girl, and I'm tired of running. Before Nayeli could respond, the saloon doors burst open again, and Vernon Slater stumbled out, flanked by 2 men who looked like hired guns. Blackwood, Slater called, his words slurred. You don't walk away from me. 15 years I've been waiting for you to crawl back, and now you just turn tail? You're nothing but a coward. Tom turned slowly, positioning himself so that Nayeli was behind him. Go home, Vern. You're drunk. Same as you were that day. That what this is about? That brat of yours? Slater laughed cruelly. Accidents happen. Should have taught her to look both ways. Nayeli felt Tom's body tense, saw his hand twitch toward his gun. But again, he held back. You're not worth hanging for, Tom said, his voice deadly calm. Not worth one more day of my life. You've taken enough already. He began to turn away again, reaching back to usher Nayeli along with him. That's when Slater made his move. With surprising speed for a drunk man, he drew a small derringer from his coat pocket. Always were yellow, Slater sneered, aiming at Tom's back. Everything happened in an instant. Nayeli shouted a warning. Tom started to turn. A shot rang out, but it wasn't from Slater's gun. The saloon owner staggered backward, a look of surprise on his face as he dropped his derringer and clutched at his shoulder. Standing in the doorway of the saloon was Martha Wilson, a smoking shotgun in her hands. That's just a taste, Vernon, she called out, her voice steady as she kept the gun trained on him. Next one goes in your gut if you don't back off right now. Slater's hired guns exchanged glances, clearly calculating whether their pay was worth facing Martha's shotgun. After a moment, they raised their hands and stepped away from their boss. This ain't over, Blackwood, Slater growled, still clutching his bleeding shoulder. Yes, it is, Tom replied. Then, turning to Martha, he added, Didn't know you had that in you, Martha. The older woman lowered the shotgun slightly. There's a lot you don't know about me, Thomas Blackwood. Now you two better come along before the sheriff shows up. Though he's probably too deep in his cups to have heard the shot anyway. As they walked back toward the boarding house, Nayeli slipped her small hand into Tom's. He looked down at her, in surprise, but didn't pull away. You did right thing, she told him. Killing makes more ghosts. My grandmother say this. Tom was quiet for a long moment. Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman. She was, Nayeli agreed sadly. Back at the boarding house, Martha made them tea and sat them down at her kitchen table. So what now? She asked Tom. Slater won't forget this. And he's got the sheriff in his pocket. Tom looked at Nayeli, then back at Martha. I was thinking of heading north. Maybe Montana way. Heard they need ranch hands up there. And the girl? Martha pressed. Tom hesitated. There's a mission school near Fort Benton. They take in Indian children, teach them to read and write. Nayeli's heart sank. Another place to be left, another group of strangers. She stared down at her tea, fighting back tears. Unless, Tom continued, his voice uncertain, unless she'd rather stay with me, could use a hand with the horses. And she's quick with letters, already learning to read. Nayeli's head snapped up, hope blooming in her chest. You want me to stay with you? Tom shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Ain't much of a life, riding with an old man like me. But if you want ... Yes, she said before he could finish. I stay with you. Martha looked between them, a small smile playing at her lips. Well, I'll be. Thomas Blackwood taking in an Apache child. World's full of surprises. We leave in morning? Nayeli asked eagerly. Tom nodded. First light. Before Slater can cause more trouble. That night, as Nayeli lay in bed, she thought about the strange path that had led her here. Cast out by her people, found by a grieving gunslinger, now headed toward an unknown future. The spirits worked in mysterious ways. She remembered something her grandmother had once told her. When the path ahead is dark, child, the spirits send guides to light the way. Perhaps Tom Blackwood was her guide. And perhaps in some small way she was his dot. As dawn broke over redemption, Tom and Nayeli rode out together, heading north. Behind them, the town slowly awakened, unaware that two lost souls had found each other in its midst, an unlikely pair bound by shared loneliness and the promise of a new beginning. Martha Wilson stood on her porch, watching them go. "God go with you both," she whispered, though they were too far away to hear. And somewhere, on the morning breeze, Nayeli thought she heard her grandmother's voice, approving of the path she had found. Not the one she had expected, but perhaps the one she was always meant to follow.